tomorrow is Mother's Day, and normally it is a day where I am with my students and their mom in Tacoma Park making le fraisier. We've been making many versions of le fraisier, including the classic one with pastry cream. But this version I'm going to show you how to make today is really the best one for this event of Mother's Day, and also it is a cake that celebrates the season by using strawberries and some green herbs. It is a fragrant cake. It is a beautiful, with all the strawberries forming a ring, kind of crown around in a shape of hearts. It looks really sophisticated, and the reason is because it requires the use of a ring, and these rings can be very expensive. But for the purpose of today, you don't need to use an expensive one. The ones that cost $50–$60 are also used to bake. So you will put it on your pan, and you'll pour your batter, and then you put it in the oven. So you use this as a baking tool. But the ones that we need are just rings to hold the shape. So when it's time to serve, you can just remove the ring and have that beautiful display. You could use any size you want. You can also use a square shape if you prefer. If you have one that's not very high, I recommend you use an acetate sheet inside. If you don't have a ring, and it's hard right now during the confinement to go out to stores, you can make your own. There are videos on YouTube that show you how to make these rings using tin foil. My son is going to join me to make this cake. It's his gift for me for Mother's Day. So we're gonna have some fun and show you how to make it, and hopefully you can also try it. I also have the recipe written on my website, and I will put the link here so you can go back to it for measurements and details. Okay, so we are going to start now making le fraisier. And first thing, you want to turn your oven to, well, you have a choice. You can turn it to 430 degrees Fahrenheit, and your cake will cook in 4 minutes. Or you can turn it to 350, and then it will take 15 minutes. So really, it depends where you are. If you're familiar with the recipe, if you have other part of the recipe ready, then you want to speed up the cake. Or if you haven't done the other part, so you want to take your time, then you can just put it on 350 with 15 minutes. The sign is you want the top to be golden brown. Which will indicate that the cake is cooked through. So this is heating up now, and we're going to start making the batter. So we need 4 eggs and 125 grams of flour and 125 grams of sugar. So the first time when I did this recipe, I remembered 125 grams, okay, so the same amount of sugar and flour. Yes, if you're using the balance. But if you're using cups, then it's different. It's not the same, right, Samara?
When you measure in measurements like weight measurements, and you have to have volume measurements, or you do the opposite. Some things are heavier than other things. So even if it's the same amount in the cup, or it's the same amount in the weight, it could be different for the actual area that it takes up, or the actual weight of the thing.
I am going to take your bowl,
okay,
and remove the weight of the eggs and the bowl, which is now at 0 grams, and I will add 125.
Careful.
Ah, that was too much. You were right. Okay, hold this.
Take it carefully. It's fine.
127.
It's fine. 125.
125. Perfect.
As long as it's not like wet with the eggs, then you can still take it off. It's why I think it's better to pour it in one spot and then mix it instead of pouring it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you have a thinner layer and it's harder to remove if you make a mistake, which is very sad if you do make that mistake.
It's okay.
Trust me, it's happened a lot of times.
Really? To whom?
To me.
Really?
Yeah.
It's okay. You know, it's with mistakes that you learn.
It's true.
Most, you know that. So it's okay if you make mistakes in the kitchen. It's not a big deal. All right, so we put some hot water here, and we are going to boil it.
All right.
And then we will mix this until it reaches 120 degrees. So all we're doing is, mixing it slowly, waiting for this to start boiling. And then when it boils, we'll turn down the heat and we'll continue until we reach the temperature.
All right.
So you want to do the syrup?
Yeah. So I'm gonna turn on the heat to high so it boils. We're gonna start with the dry ingredients. We need a 1/4 cup of water and 1/4 cup of sugar. To make syrup, it's ratio of 1 to 1. So I'm gonna take a 1/4 cup of sugar first because it's the dry ingredient. Because if you're using the same measurement, if you put the water first, then this sugar usually sticks and it's very annoying, and it's also difficult to take off. You don't get exact measurements. So we'll take a 1/4 cup of sugar and put it inside, and then I'm gonna take a 1/4 cup of water. Boom. Okay. Now we also want vanilla. And if you have the pod, if you have the real vanilla, we just have this vanilla powder. But if you really have vanilla, then you can cut it and take the what's inside the vanilla, like the things inside the seeds, and put it in the batter.
It's boiling, so I'm going to turn it on.
And you can take the pods after you open them and put them in the water to boil. So I'm just going to put a little bit of powder. Not too much though. Oh, it smells great. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Take a little bit.
So this is still real vanilla. It's just they dry the pot and then they make a powder of it. So you get everything in one.
Mix this up. You don't want to leave it too much, because if you leave it for too much time, then as you probably know, the water will evaporate and it will become, the ratio won't be even anymore, and the sugar will be there more than, I'm just turn it down to simmer. The ratio won't be the same, because once the water evaporates like it's doing now, then you'll have more sugar and it'll be more syrupy. It's not really what you're aiming for. You're looking for like a silky, smooth type of syrup.
Yeah, when you're mixing, how do you know it's time to...
Once all the, you can't see any more of like the crystallized sugar, once it's all melted and incorporated into the water. Also, the thickness of the liquid is different from normal water. The vanilla's kind of interrupting with that, but it looks very good. I'm gonna move it to the side to let it cool down. Yeah, how are you doing with that?
I'm doing great. Actually, now, I don't know if you can see, it's I turned down the heat, so it's not boiling. But it's gently boiling, and it's foaming a little bit.
Probably take it off soon.
Yeah, let's check the temperature.
122.
So we have to stop.
Yep. This is
All right.
off. I'll turn off the heat for you.
Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna put this away, and
Where do we leave this to cool off? Where do we?
I think we'll just put it aside here until it's time to work with it, to use it for the. It has to cool off. Okay. So now I'm just going to start beating up the eggs. What we are looking for now is to double the volume or triple the volume. So this is how people used to make cakes in France before they invented baking powder. And they still do it just because, you know, it gives great results. I don't need this anymore. Could you please put it?
Yes, of course.
Over there. So I think we reached the right consistency. You see the volume now? It's so fluffy and it makes this ribbon, le ruban. Okay, so now we can add the flour.
All right.
And
Let's get to it.
all right, let's go. We're just gonna do it in 3 times, okay? So thank you. Okay. So, you know, the turn, it goes the opposite direction of the direction of the folding. Okay.
It's fine. We didn't have that much flour.
Okay. Yeah, I need a little bit more. So, see, we don't want to have too much that, you know, it just doesn't mix. But at the same time, we don't want to have too little, so we mix too much. You know, we do too many of the mixing movements that will deflate the batter.
When you raise it higher, I find it goes in more places.
Yeah, it's better, right? Yeah. So now what we're going to do is pour the batter. I am going to try to spread it a little bit, and you can use a professional tool if you have one like these, or you can just carry on with this if you don't want to do dishes, right?
Since you don't want any air holes when you're eating it, you should probably tap it down.
Yes, you're right. But before that, see, like, you don't want to waste any of this things here.
Oven's really hot.
Okay, so I'm gonna tap. Thank you for reminding me. But I would like to show you a little tip. So, you know, when you spread, it's normal that the edge is a little bit thinner. So we want to have the same thickness. That way the edge doesn't burn, doesn't cook before everything else. So one thing you can do is take your thumb and just run it in the batter. You know, like you're tracing a line, and then you're shaping and bringing things back to place.
Oh.
There you go. You want to try it?
I'm fine, thank you.
You don't like to be messy, huh? And the last one. So now we're just gonna pat it down, you know, tap it to remove the bubbles, because we don't want to find bubbles like we're eating sourdough bread. Here we go.
All
And
right.
ready for the oven.